back to my channel. Today is Friday, March 18th. So I'm 33 weeks and 2 days pregnant with my third baby. I decided, sort of spur of the moment, to book a private ultrasound for last night. If you've been following my videos up until this point, you'll know that I've been a little concerned that I might be growing a gargantuan baby just based off of like fundal height measurements and stuff like that. And I just sensed that my midwives were not going to order any more ultrasounds. So instead of waiting until my next midwife appointment, I decided to just book a private one myself to get a little bit more information, get a little bit more answers. So we are going to be talking about that today. But first, just a general pregnancy update. The past week, things have really intensified and picked up. I'm still able to keep up with my normal routine, but over the last weekend, my husband and I sent our kids to their grandparents so that we could repaint the interior of our house and rearrange the furniture and basically just make a better living arrangement for when baby comes. So I now have a room that baby and I will share. The kids have their room that they will share, and everyone just has better access to all the things. That got done, but it was very, very intensive. And since last weekend, in the middle of the night, I've been getting some really bad Charlie horses and cramping in my calves and in my hamstrings. I'm sure if I just started taking magnesium, it would probably fix the problem. I'm just too lazy. Also, in terms of cramping, I have just been getting, you guys, the most intense Braxton Hicks, and they only happen when I'm resting. Oftentimes, they will only happen when I'm sleeping. And over last weekend, understandably, because we were so busy in the house, I had 2.5 hours where I was getting one every 10 minutes. I pulled out my contraction timer and was timing them. They don't hurt, but they're just very, very tight. And when I do get them, I'd say at least 75% of the time, I actually have to stop what I'm doing. I have to bend over, I have to support my belly, and I just need to breathe. And they last a full minute. These are no joke. They're my uterus knows what it's doing. And it's not playing around right now. I really can't complain because I'm still very comfortable in this pregnancy and I'm able to live my life normally. The only time that actually my Braxton Hicks are really set off is if I'm doing a lot of cleaning or housework, painting, whatever, where I'm getting up, sitting down, bending over all the time, bending over, picking kids up, putting them on the potty, wiping their butt, putting the laundry into the laundry machine, taking it out, picking up toys and clothes from the floor. And it's all of that up and down movement that irritates my uterus and definitely triggers my Braxton Hicks. And it also, I think, causes my baby to drop into my pelvis a little bit deeper because after all of that excitement and movement, my pelvic floor just tends to feel so heavy and just so much pressure. And I am still continuing to deal with just a lot of discomfort when sitting down to use the restroom. Anytime I need to sit down and relax my pelvic floor to pee, it's just so uncomfortable. In 2 weeks, I have my next midwife appointment, and I do plan to talk to her about it then, just to make sure there isn't anything I can do. I'm still 50-50 back and forth going between, is my pelvic floor too tight? Am I possibly, is it too weak? Am I possibly dealing with a minor prolapse situation? Or is it just because my baby is low and putting normal pressure on my pelvic floor? I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not having any problem with incontinence. I'm also not having any problem relaxing my pelvic floor to go to the bathroom. It's just very uncomfortable and there's so much pressure. On a more fun and happier note, I have been leaking colostrum for many weeks now. It's seemed random up until now, but I figured it out. I start to leak little droplets anytime I take a shower. Also when I'm just very relaxed and taking a bath. And also though, one of the symptoms I've had in this pregnancy all throughout is that I've had very itchy boobs, they just itch. And I don't know why, because my My cup size has not changed at all in this pregnancy. I can still wear with ease all of my pre-pregnancy bras, but they've gotten very itchy. And I notice now that when it's particularly bad and I'm having to like scratch them, because it's like the whole skin around, it's not just my nips. When I scratch them, I end up stimulating the breast tissue, and then I start very easily leaking like these little drops. In previous weeks, those drops were like a clearish gray fluid, but now they have turned to a full-on, like it looks like egg yolk. It's just that thick, beautiful golden color. And I do plan to actively harvest colostrum prenatally in this pregnancy. I did not do that with my others, but I was going to wait until 36 or 37 weeks before I start just gently hand expressing. And my plan was always to just do, 3 to 5 minutes on each side, maybe 2 to 3 times a day. That's at least what the internet recommends when it comes to late term antenatal colostrum harvesting. They say to wait to that point because the oxytocin release, obviously, like it can cause some contractions, and they don't want you to go into preterm labor. However, I've also read that it is safe to very gently do some hand expression a little bit sooner than 36, 37 weeks, so long as it doesn't cause your uterus to contract or have any kind of pain while you're doing it. But I've played around with it a little bit, and I have not experienced any kind of sensation in my uterus whatsoever. So the past couple days, I've actually, when I notice that I'm itchy, like even right now I am, just thinking about it, or when I take a shower in the afternoon, I will just hand express for 3 to 5 minutes, just that one time in the day. And I've been able to get out about 1.5 milliliters of colostrum each time. So I have these little syringes that I bought from the local pharmacy that I've been collecting it in and then freezing it. And I also bought the Haka colostrum collector kit. So I've just been like sort of starting to collect, and I think I'm just going to do this on a somewhat regular basis and start freezing some colostrum because it would be really nice to have that on hand. One other thing I've done also, just in trial and error of playing around with this now, is that these syringes and the Haka thing, they're super expensive. And if I'm going to be getting out like a couple mils per day from now, conceivably till 40 weeks pregnant, 7 weeks from now, it would cost me way too much to just continue to buy syringes and stuff to collect it all. So what I've decided is I bought a silicone ice cube tray with just those really mini ice cube molds. So it's like the smallest ice cube mold I could find. And my thought is that I can just collect maybe 1 to 2 days worth of expression of colostrum, and then pour it into one of these little ice cube molds and freeze it. And then I can pop it out and just start collecting those Medela breast milk baggies, just collecting little tiny ice cubes worth of colostrum in them so that I'm not having to like constantly put them in syringes. And then I can just take out an ice cube as needed, thaw it, soak it up into one syringe, and use it then with my baby when he's born. So I don't know if anyone else has done that method, but I was just trying to think of ways to save money and make this convenient, and that came to mind, so I'm going to try it. Okay, now let's talk about the ultrasound I went to. So the past 10 weeks, my fundal height has been measuring off the charts. Like I'm basically routinely measuring 3 to 4 weeks ahead of what I should be. And that has never been my experience with my other 2 kids. So it has been a concern for me that possibly my baby could be really big, or I could have maybe an abnormal amount of amniotic fluid. So I didn't think that my midwives would be ordering a new ultrasound for me. And I just decided I want to get some information. I know it's all an estimation. I know that the weight estimate they give you can vary wildly. I know that, but I still just wanted to go and see what they saw. And I also wanted to know why I couldn't seem to get him to move from transverse to head down. I know we still have a lot of time. I know that things can change, but it just seems like ever since my anatomy scan, my baby, at least 50% of the time, lies transverse. And then the other 50% of the time, I really can't tell where he is or if this is his head or his butt. And I don't know. I just wanted to go and get a look. So we go in there, and the first thing she tells me is he is definitely head down. Yay! And I'll just say the past several days, I've been doing some spinning babies stuff. I have been exclusively sitting on my yoga ball, doing a lot of hip circles. 2 or 3 times a day, I've been doing several sets of cat-cows. And I started doing forward-leaning inversions, which are very uncomfortable, but I've figured out how to do them. And I just do them in short stretches, and then I take a break, and then I do it again, and I take a break. And supposedly it's supposed to be helpful in getting your baby in a good position. So I don't know if that helped or not, but he was head down, and he was so head down, his head was so buried into my pelvis that there was absolutely no potential for seeing his face. We did not get any profile picture, nothing like that. She could hardly even make out the full outline of his skull just to get a measurement of what his skull was. She finally got it. But she really had to like dig that wand deep down, like under my pubic bone to get that image. But she said he was head down and his back was all along my left side. So she looked at his heart. It looked beautiful. It looked perfect. You could see all 4 chambers moving. So that was cool. She got a good look at both of his kidneys, and they both measured normally and no fluid or buildup or anything there. So that was fine. And then she didn't measure, she only measured my amniotic fluid once, but she looked around for it and she found like the pocket of fluid, and it was 4 centimeters deep. And apparently anywhere between 2 and 8 centimeters of amniotic fluid where you don't see any baby parts is what is normal, at least for this gestation, according to Google. So I'm like perfectly average there. And she said everything looked fine in terms of my fluid content everywhere else. And then she measured the baby's femur, his skull, and then she measured his torso circumference. And this is what she found. The baby is measuring just the way, like proportionately, he always has in my 12-week scan and in my 20-week scan. And that is that his femurs are a couple weeks shorter than what he should be. I think they measured around 31 weeks and I was 33. But that's how it's always been. And then his torso circumference is measuring 35 weeks. So it's measuring 2 weeks ahead, which it always has been. His torso length and circumference was measuring 2 weeks ahead at my anatomy scan and also my 12-week scan. So that's not abnormal. And his head circumference is measuring to the day exactly what it should be, 33 weeks and 1 day. Those proportions are very much in line with how my other kids are, especially my son. My daughter, both of them, like they were born like average length, a little bit like a couple centimeters shorter than average, especially for being 40-week due date babies. And especially considering as how I'm 5'9" and my husband is 6'4". They are not as long as I thought they would be at birth. My daughter since has just, she's giant. She's 5 years old and she wears 10-year-old clothes right now. But my son is still very much like a very average height, maybe even a little bit shorter than what we would expect him to be, given my husband and my height. Just very average height, very stocky, sturdy little guy. And that was the same thing with this boy that I have now, is he just seems to be this compact, very sturdy, stout little man. But I'm very, very happy to see that his head is measuring right where it should be. The other 2 kids had big heads. They were born with heads in the 98th percentile, and I definitely felt it the first time. But that's good to know that his body proportions are normal. They're in line with how he is growing, how he's been growing, and nothing is like off the charts. So that made me super pumped. And then she took all of her measurements and she put them into her calculator and did her little magical calculation. And she said that my baby's weight estimation at this point is 2,306 grams. Now, and that's 5 pounds and 1 ounce. So that's what his weight estimation is for right now at 33 weeks. She told me that this measurement is 5% over the average. So I interpreted that as meaning he's measuring in the 55th percentile. And I'm like, all right, this is amazing. I have an average weight baby. He's basically like very average in size. I've got an average amount of amniotic fluid. Everything seems to look normal. However, when I went home and Googled just to see what the actual percentile was, it turns out that for this gestation and that weight estimation, according to the Google calculators, it says he's in the 70th percentile, which still isn't bad. And when I took my other son's birth weight and plugged it into the calculator, my other son was born, he was 8 pounds, 5 ounces, and that was the 66th percentile for a boy. And so then I did a little bit of conversion. And if this baby continues to grow at this rate and is born on his due date, like his siblings were, he will come out approximately 8 pounds, 7 ounces to stay at like the 70th percentile, I think, according to the calculator. Who knows? And I know that all of this can change and it's not like accurate. It can be wildly different, but I am okay with these numbers because people had me thinking that I'm having like a 9 to 10 pound baby. And that, I don't know, shook my confidence a little. But just knowing that things don't look odd on the scan makes me feel so much more confident and comfortable going into this labor and delivery experience. But I'm so thankful my son is head down. I just hope he stays there. I guess let's just do a bump shot while we can. I can't quite see what you guys can see because I don't have the viewfinder on. So hopefully you can just see right now. But this is 33 weeks and 1 day with my third baby. There's not much change. I haven't eaten breakfast yet, so my bump is actually not as big as it normally is when I film these updates, but that's what it looks like from the front and from the other side. I have started to use KT tape across my belly button here to help support my linea alba, because when my baby pushes out, he tends to push out on my belly button and it's just so uncomfortable. My belly button is like kind of like inverting and it's so uncomfortable. I've talked about this in previous updates, how I just can't stand the feeling of clothes chafing on it or anyone touching it. So the KT tape helps to just like support and offer light compression here where my abs are splitting, and also it just kind of like covers my belly button so I can't feel anything brush against it. I've gotten some questions on Instagram about why I had that on and what it does, so that is the answer. Anyway, that is my update for you guys now, so stay tuned and I'll be back for another update in a couple weeks. Okay, bye.